What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Wasted Picks. We're doing our first ever live recording here, video and all included. I'm here with Wes, and we had a special guest today, a good friend of ours, IE program, Tanner Elbin. How's it going, Tanner?
It's going pretty good. Started the league 1-0, and I think things are looking relatively up.
Now, Tanner, let me ask you something here, man. You had the first pick going into the draft this year. What was your mindset? And honestly, dude, like kind of looking at it, I think you got a lucky break with some of the picks taken before you.
Taking before me, right? Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking, letting McCaffrey fall to me at number one. But yeah, honestly, and something that has like kind of pained me, and I forced myself not to overthink it, is that often I forget what the number is, but oftentimes the person that's like the preseason consensus number one doesn't finish there. But I mean, it's hard to pass up Christian McCaffrey, knowing what he did this year and knowing that there's not that much else on the Carolina offense to, I mean, he's the bell cow of that offense, so had to go with him for sure.
All right, so Tanner won last week. We'll get into what everybody else did. Pull it up right here. And as we're looking at it, can you?
Yeah.
I just want to say, guys, this wasn't my best showing. Starting off first, your mom's house. Mom's house did not put up a good game at all. I had Michael Thomas with my first pick, and I'm a notable Michael Thomas hater, and my hate withstood. He did awful. Came out with an ankle injury, maybe missing a couple weeks. After that, we've got Team Williams coming in, dropping a 108 bomb. Russell Wilson, Ezekiel Elliott, and Raheem Mostert. Wes, what are your thoughts on Russell this year? You think he can keep up this pace? I know he completely blitzed my Falcons defense. So,
yeah, I tell you what, Brandon. Just watching that game, just back and forth, had the red zone on. I do think he's going to be able to keep this pace. I think the one thing Pete Carroll's not been failing the past couple of years, just letting Russ cook. But you know what I think he's going to do this year? I think he's going to let Russ cook. Kind of like I'm doing with my own fantasy team. I got the sunglasses on because you can already call me the champion, So I'm coming in. I'm ready to roll. And just like Russ, I'm going to cook this year. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I think Russ can keep
I might have
this
to
going.
slow you down there just a
Let him
bit.
cook.
As far it's
Nah,
not on your Seahawks claims, but
we gotta let him cook, baby. Let
We'll
him
see.
cook.
I mean,
Eat
guys
him
just
up.
Wes
don't
is
let me
talking
cook.
about
That's-
letting
that's like
quarterbacks cook, but he doesn't even have his quarterback set for week 2.
Hey, I don't need a QB, and if you bums quit hoarding all the quarterbacks on your bench, I could actually stream them. So, but it's all right. Minshew magic, baby. I might have to grow a mustache if he keeps leading me to wins.
Yeah, I think that's a requirement for sure.
Yeah.
All right, coming in next, we have our first upset, I think, of the season. Dempsey. I wish we had Dempsey on today just to I want to know what's going through his head right now. The preseason favorite, everybody's favorite. We did a ranking poll. He came out number 1. He dropped a complete dud. I'm telling you, I've met this kid. He's a nice guy. He's got a great smile, but man, he dropped a dud. And Dempsey, if you're out there listening, man, I don't think you're coming back from this. I paid some great compliments to your team earlier, dude, and it doesn't look great. Next, we have the Chubby Chasers, led by Nick Chubb. You can kind of guess that. Taking out Ozone, noted Patriot fan, who, Wes said he wanted to talk about this. Let's go through and look at the box score here because this is just not okay.
Yeah,
this is just not okay.
I got a couple things here for you, man. You got a solid team. As I was jumping into the matchups this next week, kind of going over them a little bit before we talk about it, I was like, man, actually my vote was close to going your way. But Rob Gronkowski, man, he's a backup tight end. Why is he starting on your team, man? You got all kinds of good options on the waiver wire right now. You have a great option on your bench. Get him out of your starting lineup. Drop him. Make sure he's never on your team again, bud. I know you're a Patriots fan, but he's got to go.
Wow. Really,
I mean,
really came for him.
And regardless of all that, just watching the game, OJ Howard, like Wes said, is definitely still the number 1 tight end down there. Regardless of all the he wanted out rumors in the offseason, he was the guy through the game at the tight end position. So
and I think Tom Brady's going to use him this season, especially down in the red zone. So I actually like OJ Howard a little bit as a sneaky pick later in the season.
All right,
If
coming up.
Tampa Bay can get their offense turned around, I don't know. Tom Brady might be
Dude,
washed.
I think Tom Brady's washed after watching that. I'm a
You
NFC
know,
South fan.
I
Love the
I
Falcons. Go
as
ahead, Tanner.
I was gonna say I don't even remember. Yeah, in this league I own Godwin. I have Mike Evans in another league. I actually traded for him. I didn't even draft him. Traded for him before week 1 even started, and as painful as it was for
He's
me, and
shaking
as
in his
concerned
boots.
as I am to a point, how many times have we heard that Tom Brady was washed when he was up in New England
He's
after a slow
shaking.
start to
I
the year?
think Tanner's shaking in his boots right now. He's worried.
I was, and
He's
I had to
worried.
put myself to sleep last night saying, we've heard this narrative before, and if it then and this will be a big season to see, is Tom Brady really the GOAT? Is he going to bring that dog out and come out and get going and win some games, or was he really a system QB? I think that this year or 2 or 3 or whatever he has left in Tampa will really define his legacy.
Yeah, I
Okay.
could see that.
I mean,
Real
that's
quick before we jump off this, David Johnson, what'd you guys think? It looked like he had a little pep in his step this past week on Thursday
Yeah,
Night Football.
impressive. Yeah,
David Johnson, comeback player of the year. He looks great. Too bad that Deshaun Watson and David Johnson are stuck behind maybe one of the worst coaches in the NFL right now, and Bill O'Brien. It just looked awful. Offensive line play. I don't think there was a single time Deshaun Watson stepped back to make a pass in a clean pocket. I mean, he's
Right.
running with his hair on fire. He doesn't even have any hair. He had to grow some out just to do it. I mean,
just to see it burn.
it does not look great from an offensive perspective. The Chiefs were getting after him, but from a player perspective, Deshaun looks like he still got it, and David looks like he's got a little pep in his step. The train's off his back. He's able to kind of run and burn, and it looks great. Kind of moving into our third to last match with the league, we have Tanner winning over Josh Swanson. Josh Swanson, noted friend of mine. Kind of glad he lost. But before the season even started, I kind of want to say this. Josh sent me a text, man. He's like, "Hey, I think we can work out a trade." And he knows I'm a Falcons fan. He asked for Michael Thomas and Matthew Stafford for Matt Ryan and Tyreek Hill. And right now I am shaking in my boots. I wish I took it. It wasn't 30 minutes until after this week ended where I was getting texts from him. It's just like, "Man, you idiot." It's like, you're kidding me. So he's got a good team. Ronald Jones played.
I will say Melvin Gordon fumbled early last night in that late game, and Noah Fant caught that touchdown. And there for a little bit, he was projected to beat me, and I was genuinely scared. I was afraid Philip Lindsay was going to get the touches after Melvin Gordon fumbled, but Melvin Gordon was able to get it going second half, got in the end zone, and bailed me out. So that was clutch.
All right,
Yeah,
next
and I
up,
actually like Josh's team moving forward. I think he's got a good shot to be a contender.
if James
Yeah.
Conner can stay healthy and keep a share of the running game up there,
Mhm.
I think he's got a great team. Up next, we have Dave, noted guy of the people, people's man, Dave,
Noted guy.
versus Nathan. And what was interesting here is Nathan won, and he didn't even set his lineup. Cortland Sutton was out hours before game time, and he just was here the whole time. He was carried by Calvin Ridley and Kyler Murray. I mean, come on, Dave. You can do better than that, buddy.
It's funny because if we look at our power rankings preseason, Nathan was one of those guys that was consistently top 5 in about everyone's rankings. And I'm pretty sure he auto-picked. I mean, he just bought a house, didn't have time to make it to the draft. And but Nathan, you might be the weak link in this league here. You can't keep that up. You can't keep getting lucky the whole season. You're going to have to set your lineup, man.
Yeah, you're going to have
Right.
to, especially when those bye weeks coming up.
I will say Cortland Sutton was not announced out until Monday, so
Yeah.
maybe he got – I'm not sure. I didn't get to see his bench there, but maybe he got stuck with him kind of. But It did kind of appear that he didn't set his lineup.
All right, in the last match of the week, we have Wes here pounding down. What is that? Truly, buddy.
Yep.
Pounding.
Oh, no. We're looking at a Vizzy today. Yeah.
What about the Natty Light bottles?
I have to say it's a little more fruity than my normal White Claws, but it's still hitting the spot. We got pineapple mango here. It's pretty refreshing, I have to say.
Gardner
But
Minshew.
on to my football team.
Oh.
As you can see, we got the man, the myth, the legend, the guy that's going to take me to the fantasy football championship. Gardner Minshew. You know what? He's doing exactly what I said preseason. I was like, this is what's going to happen. Jaguars are going to go out there, and they're going to be like, hey, we're tanking for Lawrence. Like, we want the last pick. But you know what? Minshew, baby, he's got the ball in his hands. He's got the game in control. I'm not worried. I'm going to ride him out all through the playoffs because you bums won't drop some QBs for me to stream. But, hey, I think he has a great season this year, I have to say. And then next, last player I got to talk about on my team, my boy, CEH, baby. Top 5 running back as a rookie. He looks good. He's a little smaller than I expected. I'm a little worried about the passing work, but hopefully we can get that turned around, the Kansas City offense, and I'm feeling good about that.
Wes,
Here,
I do have to halt you quick. Brandon, you can go ahead.
here's something I'm worried about with CEH here, man, is he had 0 targets out of the backfield, 0 receptions.
2 targets,
if
0
the
receptions.
if the game script doesn't go his way, I don't know if he's going to get touches. If Kansas City's down and their defense did not look bad against Houston, but if the balls don't go their way sometimes and their game script is shifting kind of more towards a passing, I don't see him getting very many touches.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, and we'll see moving forward. Thankfully, Kansas City shouldn't have a game script not going their way too frequently, so hopefully we can keep that afloat. But I agree that is a little worrisome if they don't get him involved more in the passing game. And he's known for being a passing back, so it's very odd to me that they're not throwing the ball or targeting him a little bit more. But I do think there was still a little bit of involvement with Darrell Williams that we'll probably see drop off here in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully that will correlate to more success.
I agree with Brandon there in a sense. I don't even think it's as much of an issue of game script for Clyde. As far as I remember last year, midway through the year, everyone was just giving Andy Reid heat about airing it out so much, not even because of game scripts, just because he has Patrick Mahomes. And there's going to be times where it's hard not to air it out because you have Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. But my biggest gripe with your team is not even Clyde. I agree. I think Clyde is fringe top 5 back, definitely top 10. But you have 2 Bears in your starting lineup, and that is one of the worst offenses in the league. And I struggle to see Anthony Miller dropping 15.6 a week. And when they fall behind every week, is David Montgomery going to get the touches that he needs to be successful? That's just my take. But one plus I will give you: Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy on the bench, 2 rookie receivers. I think one of them will have to come on strong to where hopefully you can replace Anthony Miller with one of them. At least maybe they'll both come on strong. Who knows? Mm-hmm. So I get that, but if that happens and Anthony Miller struggles, David Montgomery struggles, I just think the depth is hard. And when bye weeks roll around, I don't know. I know you won week 1, and congrats, but that's my biggest concern with your team.
So here's my thing about Wes's team, and I think looking at it originally, I did not like it. Kind of taking another look at it, I think his bench may have a chance to be better than his starting lineup right now. He's got upside. Antonio Gibson, Peyton Barber looked great week 1. He was getting the touches.
He did, but if he doesn't get in the end zone twice,
then it looks a lot different. But is Antonio Gibson going to get plays? That Washington offense outside of Terry McLaurin is kind of bad. Offensive line did not look great. So is he going to be good? But other than that, I think N'Keal Harry's a good breakout pick. Wes and I have talked about this before. Brian Edwards has no business being on a starting lineup. Maybe now with Henry Ruggs. I don't know how long he's going to be out, if that hamstring or whatever he's injured with is going to affect him. But that just doesn't seem like a good bench.
But that's what I'm saying. I think that's what I was kind of trying to get out of it. I think his bench has a lot of upside. But if, like I'm saying, say David Montgomery and Anthony Miller do not produce very well, he's got other options at receiver, but does he really have options at running back down there? I struggle to see that. But and the whole quarterback streaming philosophy, I've done it before and it can work. But I think in a 14-man league, and like you said, most of us have a backup stashed. I think for that reason, because 14-man league, that's getting tough to stream your quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's looking a little scarce, I'll say, but hey, I'm not worried. I'll come in. As far as Anthony Miller goes, that was more of a weak start. If you look statistically, the last couple of years, I'm drawing a blank right now. Trubisky has looked very crappy, but for some reason he plays good against
The
Detroit. And
Lions. Yes, I have seen
so
that. Yes.
that was a weak kind of just a spot start this week. We'll see. I probably won't be rolling with Anthony Miller in my starting lineup too many weeks.
All
But
right, so now we're going to get into, we're named wasted picks for a reason. Our 3 wasted picks on our team so far this year. I'm going to start it off. Right now, my running back 2 is Devin Singletary. And, I've got a strong wide receiver core, but one that's now injured with Michael Thomas going down. Who knows how long Devontae Parker's going to be out. And I'm sitting with Deontay Johnson starting as my wide receiver 2, which isn't bad. I mean, he didn't look bad in that drop fumble in Pittsburgh's game last night. But Devin Singletary as a running back 2 with not very much depth after it. I'm going to go Devin Singletary as my wasted pick right now. Hell, Josh Allen's the starting running back in that backfield. I mean, is just taking the ball, carrying it. I mean, it's Josh Allen's show, and Zach Moss is now coming on the scene, and they've been noted to like him better, especially running the football in between the tackles.
yeah, but I will say I don't think you should completely write off Singletary quite yet. If you look at his rushing attempts last week, they were better than I actually expected going into the game. I think there'll still be some talent there. I will say the Bills are throwing the ball a little more than I expected and a little more than they did last year. They might let Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs in there just kind of see what he can do this year. It's a little worrisome, but I don't think I completely write him out. I do agree it might be a little bit of a wasted pick depending on where you drafted him, but I still think there could be some potential there.
All right, Wes, what about you, man? So far,
Well,
who's your wasted pick?
Yeah, so this is actually I'm going real early in my drafts, and the reason why he's my wasted pick is because I really grabbed him anywhere, and that's Joe Mixon, and he's one of those guys that I said every league I was in, I was like, hey, if he's there in the second round, I'm going to take him. I feel confident, like he just got that contract around the time we were drafting. I thought the Bengals were going to take a step forward, and I'm not completely writing him off yet. But he did not have a very good week 1. He didn't look to be involved in the passing game whatsoever. And he had 19 rushing attempts and really did not produce at all fantasy-wise. Actually fumbled and really ruined his fantasy day. So I know, Joe, you're probably listening to this podcast right now, and I'm not super disappointed in you. I know you can turn it around, but I just need to see a little bit more. And if you're talking to your buddy Burrows there, just have him throw the ball. Get some screens going. Let's get those half PPR points a little bit. But right now, I'm not real happy with the fact that I basically took him every second round in about every draft I was in.
Okay, Tanner, what about you, buddy?
Well, as we kind of touched this earlier, I'm not really entirely sure where to go with this because honestly, I like my team, but I think my team still has a lot of unknowns depending on how some teammates do. But yeah, like we were saying, if Tom Brady is indeed washed, as you have proclaimed, Chris Godwin would have to be my wasted pick. And I remember during the draft, I was pretty shocked that he fell to me when the whatever amount of picks that was looped back to me. I got Godwin and Kittle, and I was really happy about that. But if Tom Brady is back as I expect, I would then probably have to say that my wasted pick is Tyler Boyd. And at the time, I remember that was I'm usually pretty quick during the draft and picking who I want. And when that pick was happening, I had my choice between Jarvis Landry and Tyler Boyd and Devontae Parker, I think, were the 3 I was deciding between. And the clock started ticking and I still wasn't sure. And I ended up clicking on Boyd, basically just because of the Joe Burrow factor. And I was thinking I'm going to draft for upside and hope that Joe Burrow is able to have a good first year. Thus, Tyler Boyd will probably have a good first year. But looking back, I'm not so sure about it, especially today. I heard a rumor, I don't know if you guys saw it on Twitter, that the Browns are shopping Odell Beckham.
Mm-hmm.
So Jarvis Landry could be wide receiver 1 in Cleveland before the year's over, which would make him, I mean, not that he's not valuable as is, but could make him have even a larger role. And then obviously Devontae Parker in Miami is a PPR champ. I mean, so is Landry. So both of them, I knew even when I did it that both of them were probably better PPR format players than Boyd, but I kind of went with him hoping for the upside factor. So For
Are we
now,
not
I would
sure
say
that sorry to cut you off, Tanner, that Christian McCaffrey is not your wasted pick? I mean, drafted him first overall, and he doesn't even score the most points in fantasy last week.
right.
I mean,
Well, I
are
mean,
you
that
are you
was
not worried about that at all, Tanner? Like, tell me you're not worried.
no. I mean, he still broke 20 points, and the thing about McCaffrey is he's consistent and he's going to go give you solid production every week. And while
I
everybody
mean,
else is fluctuating, I
Christian
think
McCaffrey wasn't even the best running back in his football game that he played Sunday. Does that not worry you at all?
well, I don't think Josh Jacobs will be getting in the end zone 3 times a week every single week.
Uh,
That's what I'm getting at.
I don't know if I'm there with you on that one. I think Josh Jacobs might be the best running back in football this year. And mark my
I
words
okay.
now.
I like Josh Jacobs a lot.
Dude, he is nasty. And listen, his coach, Gruden,
Right, old
was
school
so
coach.
upset that he did not get rookie of the year last year.
Yeah, and I
He's
agree that
going
was
to
garbage.
feed the beast this year. He's going to let him have it. And they're getting him more involved with the passing. 3 touchdowns. I think he might. I don't know. Maybe not number one, but easily top 3.
Oh, I don't know. But that's where game script comes in because he's on the Raiders and the Raiders look good week 1, but it was Carolina. When the Raiders are
Carolina,
playing,
who has a good defense.
Yeah.
yeah, but when the Raiders are playing someone that they cannot score with, like do you think I don't know. I just don't see the Raiders going out and scoring with the Chiefs. Is Josh and like you said, he's more involved in the passing game, sure. But is when they're down 2 scores, Josh Jacobs is not going to be getting 3 touchdowns a game.
Josh Jacobs is the bona fide. If there was a running
He's a
back
stud.
0, he would be the running back 0 of fantasy football. No one can compare. I mean, look, Tanner, he dropped 33.9 points last week, dude. You cannot sit here and tell me that you're not worried that Christian McCaffrey is going to, if Christian McCaffrey does not finish as a top 2 running back, that's a wasted pick.
That's not a wasted pick.
That's a wasted pick. Welcome to
I
wasted
think
picks.
like I said earlier when I first came on about McCaffrey and usually the consensus number 1 pick doesn't finish there, but I feel confident he'll at least be top 3 for me.
Listen here, buddy.
I'm
There's
not
something
worried
we need
about
to get across, and that's Wes and I make the rules. If McCaffrey's a wasted pick, he's going to end up a wasted pick.
That's fair. Something I wanted to loop back to when you were saying about your wasted pick being Singletary. I don't know. I saw a lot of interesting stuff today about that, and he's still the passing down back. And like Wes said, Josh Allen threw the ball over 40 times that game, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I think he could potentially see some passing down work, and I think that helps his upside, especially because we're half point PPR. But on the other token, I was listening to a podcast earlier today of some football guys, and they brought up a good point about the Buffalo play calling. And I didn't really think about it live, but they were up 21-0, and they were calling designed QB runs for Josh Allen. And like you saying about him basically being the running back of that offense, and that never dawned on me when it happened. But when he had that first fumble, that was not him scrambling. That was a designed QB power run when they're up 21-0. So that is I don't know. I don't know what to think of Singletary, and I can see why you picked him as your wasted pick. But I just wanted to point out that's definitely something interesting to keep an eye on as the year goes on. We all know Josh Allen can run, but how much are they going to, as you said, essentially use him as another running back, and how much are they going to involve Singletary in the passing game? Both those will weigh a large factor in Singletary's fantasy value.
It will. So the next thing we're going to do, kind of in the episode, going through next week's projections and looking at fantasy casts, seeing who we like. Wes ran a poll this morning about who we have in each matchup, so we'll go through and I'll share my screen here, and we'll go through and see who, what's the consensus going on. So first matchup is myself versus Cody Bailey, Wes, and what was the consensus pick from our group?
Yeah, so we had 6-5. I'm sweating the way of Cody. Do you have that pulled up? Do you have the screen pulled up? I want to look at your guys' players real quick.
And so, that's going to change. My projections is higher, but that's with Michael Thomas in, which he'll be coming out of my lineup. Maybe even Devonta Parker. So I may be sitting playing Deontay Johnson and Sony Michel, which God knows how that could go. But I think that's I think it's a load of crap. the guys in our league, they're just trying to get under my skin, which is, it's fine. But, like I said, Wes and I make the rules, and we'll see what comes out of that. But, he's got a good team. Josh Allen against, of course, Miami, like the end all be all of all matchups. I mean, you saw what Cam Newton did against them. Talk about Josh Allen designed QB runs all day. That's just going to continue happening. Derrick Henry, which, he's Derrick Henry. Other than that, like, I kind of looking down on it. I mean, he has John Brown. I think it could be a wash. Yeah. I think Julio Jones goes for 140 yards and a touchdown this next weekend against Dallas. Hayden Hurst can put up good numbers. And, I've got 3 Falcons in my starting lineup. It's not because I'm a homer. It's because the Falcons have a top 3 offense in the NFL. So,
yeah. Man, that just keeps growing, doesn't it? It used to be top 5, now it's top 3.
All right,
Brandon, next. You think you're sharing your screen right now?
Am I not sharing my screen?
No.
That's embarrassing.
No, you're good. That's why I was just looking. I had to pull up the players on my phone.
Is it sharing now? Can you see it?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yeah, we're good. But yeah, I don't know. I think that game's close. By the way, I don't know which way I'll go. But
all right, next year we have Dempsey versus Daniel. How's the group swaying here, Wes?
This is the beatdown. We actually had 11 votes for every one, which I'm happy about. But it was 11-0. Dempsey, which is surprising because Dan was our highest scorer in the league. But I voted Dempsey as well, and I expect a bounce back game with Saquon. Chris Carson looked pretty good last week, and of course you got Lamar. The only thing that's really worrying me about Dempsey's team right now is Cooks. I don't know how involved he's really going to be with that offense. I don't know what you guys thought from watching that game, but I didn't see a whole lot of involvement, and I think he's going to – I think Deshaun Watson's going to spread the ball around. But like I said, we don't know. He might throw in someone like Landry. The Lizard – he's got the Lizard King on his bench, Sammy Watkins, which, hey, he always has a good week 1. But I actually think it's a close matchup, so I was surprised to see it going 11-0 Dempsey's way.
We also got to say he has CeeDee Lamb in his starting lineup right now.
Well, I think CeeDee Lamb can ball, but I agree. That's bold. And I voted, and I'm not gonna lie, I did it today while I was at work because the polls are about to expire, and I didn't really get to look specifically at matchups, so I just kind of tried to remember my power rankings I gave you at the beginning of the year and stick to them, and that's kind of why I did that. But now that I'm looking at it now, I agree that I could potentially sway my vote the other way.
Here's my reason why I'm not. I'm sticking with Dempsey, not just because I owe him one, but we're talking about he's got CeeDee Lamb as his wide receiver too. What is that? Daniel has Robbie Anderson and Christian Kirk as his wide receiver 2 in flex right now.
I don't know. He didn't play Robbie Anderson last week, did he?
I don't believe so, no. Yeah, and Robbie Anderson, I think he's a week on, week off type of guy.
Yeah, he definitely is, yeah.
So, I really just don't see where that's going. Maybe he could throw Sterling in there. Darius Slayton got most of the work last week. Boston Scott, who we played last week, I don't know if,
There's actually a guy on his bench that I would like to talk about real quick, and that is Mike Williams. Tyrod Taylor. Well, for one, Mike Williams is an animal. Did you guys see that catch he made when he was out of bounds where he basically spun a 360? But I think there might be something there that potentially pay off towards the end of the season because it seems like Tyrod Taylor is just going to feed him the ball constantly, throwing the ball down.
I agree with that, and I think Mike Williams, I don't have the numbers, but I would guess that he's probably the most targeted receiver Tyrod had. But the other thing that, again, the same podcast I was listening to, they brought up a point there about, Chargers got to win, potentially shouldn't have won, AJ Green push off, then Bengals go and miss the field goal. If say the Chargers do start losing games and they roll with Herbert, then is that connection potentially lost? That's something else to keep in mind.
Yeah. All right. Next game we have is Jason Slita versus Caleb, the Chubby Chasers. What is, just looking at it right now. I know Nathan won week 1 behind the likes of Devonta Adams and Adam Thielen throwing up crazy games, but looking at Caleb's team, I'm like, how could anybody not pick him to win?
We actually got a 5-4 here on Caleb's side.
Really? Wow.
I voted Caleb myself.
When you have Tariq Cohen as one of your starting running backs, I can't get behind it. I'm sorry.
Right.
I like his wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 are great. But I mean, he lost Le'Veon to the IR, which he looked awful before even going on the IR. Who knows if it was because of the injury? And he really doesn't have any other running back depth. I mean, he's got
Yeah.
LaShawn McCoy there, which I don't even. Does Shady even get a touch? Did Shady even get a carry last game?
I don't believe.
I don't believe so either.
That's yeah, and looking at Chubby Chasers there, he has a lot of guys who I think are good bounce back candidate games. I mean, I own Nick Chubb in another league, and I know I was complaining. Brandon heard me Sunday. He kind of got out of it. I mean, I know he put the ball on the ground and had that fumble, but game script really hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they fall behind the Ravens early. Obviously, Kareem Hunt's getting the passing down work. And sorry, I forget now, but who was his other back there? Can you go back a second, Brandon?
David. No, it was
Yeah,
David
it was
Johnson.
David Johnson had a good game. Mike Evans, like I said, if Tom Brady comes back on strong, could have a better week, and if he'll be feeling healthier, I think he's got a lot of guys that could come back stronger in week 2 and give him a good shot.
All right. So next matchup we have is Josh Swanson versus Jared Kearns. Jared took me down. Tanner took Josh down. Who do we have here, guys? I mean, it looks like just projection-wise that Jared is going to blow Josh out of the water, kind of. But I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, we got a league vote of 6-3 towards Jared, and I myself did vote for Jared. Looking back on this, it could be a little closer than I think. I think what I really kept my eyes on was DeAndre Hopkins looks very involved in Arizona. And then you look at someone like Dak, he's got a good QB. Allen Robinson, depending on what the situation is there. I know there's been some issues with the contract. And then also Stephon Diggs, I think, is going to have a huge week this week against Miami. Seems like Josh Allen's going to throw to him. They have a pretty good connection already, so I'm really excited about that. So I think that's why I'm leaning Jared in this matchup.
Okay.
Right, and much to the chagrin of Brandon, Russell Wilson did light the Falcons up, and I'm not a Dak lover, but depending on what happens, perhaps Dak could have a big week too.
And I really think Dak's going to have a big week also, and here's why: is that as bad as the Falcons' offense looked, and Wes and I talked about this before we started recording. Russell, it was a lot of dink and drops. A lot of running back screens, kind of pulling the line out and doing that, and they completely annihilated us doing that, just running. We could not keep up with them sideline to sideline. But what I think helps out Dak the most, and in the past, Atlanta hasn't really stopped Zeke, but our run defense looked relatively good last week against Seattle, which, doesn't really mean that much. It's 1 week, and, now you're going to face one of the better offensive lines and probably a top 3 running back in the NFL with Ezekiel Elliott. But, I like our run defense's chances of kind of slowing that down. But, I mean, when you got your wide receiver 1, 2, and 3 as Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup, and even throwing in Blake Jarwin in there at tight end, it's kind of hard to – you can't focus on one guy.
Did Jarwin get injured, I believe?
Yep, he's out for the season.
Jarwin's out for the season now. Wow.
Yeah.
Yep, tore his ACL.
Which is a blow, but like you said, they still have a strong 1, 2, 3. And like you said about the Falcons, I mean, Chris Carson caught 2 touchdowns. He didn't get much on the ground, and I think Carlos Hyde had 33 on the ground, if I remember right. So, like you said, you guys did a pretty good job of stuffing the run, but Russell with the dink and dunk, and yeah, I agree with that. And like you said, Zeke's a premier back, so it'll be a bigger test, but could definitely see them airing it out a little more.
All right, next game we have is Ozone versus Dave. Looking at this, I don't think I voted on this one, so just taking my first looks at it. If Rob Gronkowski comes out of the lineup, I like it here for Ozone.
Right, I agree. but Dave has Josh Jacobs, the number 1 back in the world. Even though he's number 1 back in the world.
Back 0, right?
Right.
Yeah, so real quick, so the vote for the league went 6-3 Dave on this, but I voted Dave but I think Ozon's team has so much potential. So I was so close to swinging back the other way. You look at Juju. Juju's gonna have a great bounce back season. Nyheim Hines, sorry guys, is going to have another great week this week. I think Minnesota's defense took a step back this year. He was very involved last week before what's his name got hurt, Marlon Mack. And then you look at Dalvin Cook. Hunt seems very involved, Julian Edelman, and then of course the best QB in football. So it's like, man, just put Gesicki in there, man. I don't know, against Buffalo, you might have to get to the waiver wire, but still.
and Darius Slayton kept. I saw so much stuff preseason talking about how Darius Slayton, had a great rookie year, but probably unrealistic touchdown pace to keep up with. Goes out Monday Night Football against one of the top defenses, catches 2 touchdowns. So I think that's someone that he's got to look at as a potential flex play going forward and getting in his lineup.
Even Michael Gallup, hear me out.
Right.
I know he loves the Patriots, but come on, when you have Slayton and Gallup sitting on your bench and Julian Edelman starting, I like Julian, but it just doesn't. I'm still not sold on that Patriots offense.
Yeah,
and it was very, and maybe it was just, Belichick will probably roll out different schemes week to week, but Cam rushed for 2 touchdowns, and it was very run heavy. It seems. I don't have a number, but I don't think he threw the ball that much. I think only 20 couple times. So I agree that I think that Edelman's definitely a solid player, and was, Tom Brady always gave him a lot of love, but I just don't know if that is the play this year.
All right, so kind of we'll skip one of these games and we'll come back to this one. So we have Nathan versus Nick. Honestly, I am taking Nathan 10 times out of 10. Nick's got a good team, but he has too many Buccaneers on it. That's too many.
Yeah, Nathan got the edge on the league vote earlier today. And my thing with Nick is, I think he drafted a good team, but things have not went his way as far as how the first start of the seasons went. Obviously, as soon as he drafted Fournette, he got traded from Jacksonville to Tampa Bay. Fournette's not going to get the work at Tampa Bay. It's a backfield I don't want any part of. And if you look at Jacksonville, he'd been the workhorse. And then also, if you looked at, we already scrolled down to his IR. He's got a couple players already sitting on the IR there that are pretty important big players. So I think things have just not went Nick's way so far. He might be able to bounce back towards the end of the season if Fournette gets more involved. But you're right. I'm going any team against Nick in the current situation.
Against Nick. But you're right. I agree, and he's had some tough breaks for sure. And if you look at that the ESPN projection thing, I think he's had the biggest slide of anybody. And it's only been 1 week, not really his fault, but yeah, it's just some tough breaks.
All right, next up we have the matchup of the week. 1-0 versus 1-0.
Marquee matchup of the week, baby. Wait a second. Let me get these sunglasses back on as the champion is back in the house. And this is a great matchup for week 1, I have to say. 2 of the top scorers in the league coming in hot second week. And we'll see if someone can take the lead after this.
So, yeah. Tanner, looking at Wes's team, man, what are you most worried about other than Christian McCaffrey not being the best player in fantasy football?
Well, I'm going to be honest. I haven't really looked at Wes's team much because I'm very worried about one aspect of my team. George Kittle got banged up. Wasn't able to finish the second half completely right. If George Kittle can't go, I don't have a backup tight end right now. So I'm pretty sure I'm not going to win if George Kittle is not active. And something else that's not voting in my favor, I already went ahead and benched Melvin Gordon because he's playing my Pittsburgh Steelers, and I watched them absolutely stuff Saquon Barkley, who had -6 rushing yards at halftime on 9 or 10 carries. And it was honestly, it wasn't even all Saquon's fault, but we just have, absolute a brutal front seven to run the ball against. And Saquon, I think, would have finished with an absolutely completely irrelevant night had he not taken that screen 60 yards or whatever it was. So I think that not being able to roll Melvin out and the potential from George Kittle not going are my biggest concerns. I don't care about Wes's team because, that's out of my hands. So he can do what he wants with it. I know I was joking with him earlier today about claiming a quarterback to keep him from being able to stream one. But I know that I have a couple people that I actually legitimately might want to try to pick up, and I know I'm a little further back on the waiver wire, and it might not happen anyway. But yeah, it's going to be tough. It's definitely going to be a close game. As you can see, it's only like what 52% towards me. I think it'll be tight, and I'm hoping that James White gets some more touches than he got last week, since I'm not playing Melvin Gordon.
So here's what I'm going to go with here, guys. You guys have already kind of talked a bit about it. I'm going Wes here, buddy. It's hard for me to go against. He's got maybe one of my favorite players of all time, AJ Green, in the starting lineup. I got a text from West on draft day before he was picking, and we both saw him on the board, and it just said, "Should I do it?" And we both already knew what he was going to do, and he took AJ Green. I think AJ Green puts up 100 yards this next game. He should have had a better week than he did last week. He got caught on, I think, a very soft OPI to end the game. But he's just an otherworld talent who, he was like an 8th or 9th overall pick, first round pick, and was on pace for, like top 5 receiving yards of all time at his pace what he was before he dealt with all these injuries. So I think that's huge for him. And also Mark Andrews. Lamar is not going to stop. He looks better than he did last year passing the football, and Mark Andrews is his bona fide favorite target, especially when they're within 25 yards of the red zone or the end zone. So I think that's a huge thing going Wes's favor here, especially with George being questionable. So that's what I'm going with. I'm going Wes here. Take it. I think he wins. I think West puts up like 105 points this week and wins by 10. So
See, I agree that, like I said, West hasn't got a chance. I'll let West go, and then I'd like to give one last thing.
So, real quick, what I'm going to say, we look at the league poll. I got my ass kicked in the league poll, so 8-3. People are thinking otherwise. And I do think Tanner has a good team, but I have to say, I'm not all that worried about someone that has James White in their starting lineup. So I still think I take this one. Sorry, Tanner. Again, solid team. I think I can see you meet you again in the playoffs on my way to the championship. So, Brandon, if you'll go ahead and put my fat head on the wall now, that's fine. But yeah, my team's rolling. I expect a little bit of a different team by the time the lineups are set for Thursday night. I'm going to try to make some waiver moves, but again, waiver order is not in my favor right now, and I've been shooting out trades all day. So we'll see what that looks like. But I think a couple things to worry about. CEH going against that Chargers defense. We'll see. It's a little more of a test, I think, than Houston. And other than that, I'd like to see Joe Mixon take a step forward. Hopefully AJ Green, again, like you're saying, Brandon, I was impressed with him last week. He seems like Burrow really wants to target him. So if we can get a few of those things, I feel comfortable I'll break the 100-point mark again this week. And I might be talking a bunch of smack, and I'll be on next week again. I don't know, but we'll see.
Okay. See, I said my concerns with my team, and now that I had a second to look at your team, you said you'd like, and which I agree would be a big key for you to win this game, is for Joe Mixon to take a step forward.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland's. I know Baltimore, had their way with Cleveland, but Cleveland has a solid defensive line. And if you watch that Bengals game, Joe Burrow was under duress, and like you said, Joe Mixon couldn't get going. I think that Cleveland will be fine limiting Joe Mixon and stuffing the run. And yeah, I really don't see him having a good pathway to having a good week this week against the Cleveland defense. On the same token, that might open things up for AJ Green if they start to throw the ball more, since you have both of them. The other thing, though, I'm concerned about is Gardner Minshew against Tennessee. I mean, Drew Lock looked pretty good last night, but still the Broncos were only able to muster 14 points. And I think that's a tough matchup. You're going to be trying to stream quarterbacks. I get that, but I don't know. I just think Minshew and Mixon could have tough weeks and could let me hang around the ball game, especially if Kittle's gone. And I agree. I don't love James White, but I'm certainly not playing Melvin Gordon, like I said, after what I saw. But I also will say in James White's favor, I think that New England will be forced to throw the ball more this week, which always bodes in James White's favor because they aren't going to be – don't see them going up to Seattle and getting an early lead and running the ball a lot. I think it'll be a lot more passing down work.
Here's what I'm going to say about one last thing here is kind of I want to get on Gardner Minshew. So this past weekend, a lot of my good friends put down a bet on the Colts to beat Jacksonville. They thought it was a sure thing. Come Sunday morning, I thought, screw it. I'm going to put a bet on Jacksonville money line to win the whole thing.
Yep.
And the whole time they're sitting there shaking sweaty palms. And one thing's inevitable is that mustache and that flow, you can't beat it. I mean, Wes may have on his team the greatest quarterback of all time. We're watching him play. I mean, the guy wears jorts and it works for him.
QB0.
QB0.
I mean, that's right. I agree. I should probably not be betting against Minshew again. One thing I will say about that game, though, Brandon, congrats on your bet. That was ballsy, and it paid off. I heard today, and I didn't realize when we watched it, the Colts did not punt the football once that game, and they out-yarded the Jags by a solid margin. Phillip Rivers turned the ball over. We know that happens. Threw 2 picks late that cost them. And then they went for 3 fourth downs and only got 1 of them, which is pretty brutal. They never punted the ball. They definitely should have won that game, as everyone thought they should have. But Minshew did look good, 19-20, I think it was, and that's tough. But I think he's got a much tougher defense this week against Tennessee that will probably have a good game plan for him, being a divisional opponent and seeing him last year and all that.
Hey, that's the Minshew magic. All right, Wes, you want to say anything else before we take it out here, buddy?
Oh man, I'm excited for this week. This fantasy football league's been a whole lot of fun so far, and I'm enjoying the podcast. So hopefully we can keep it rolling.
All right, guys. Well, this was Wasted Picks. Hopefully, we'll see who pulls it out this week between Wes and Tanner. I mean, we already know that I started off 0-1, but I'm wholeheartedly going to win this next week. It's inevitable. It's just what happens. I always start off 0-1 and finish 15-1. I mean, it just happens every year. So we'll see how it goes. Tanner's team, I really don't like it with Christian McCaffrey as his running back 1. So I think Tanner finishes in last this year. So it looks like Tanner will be having right up by those Steelers helmets. He'll be having a fat head of me and Wes just sitting there.
Right. Yep. Hey, but before we go, can we get a little love for that Steelers defense, man? That was crazy stuff. I have faith in our defense, but I was not expecting to hold Saquon that extreme. That was crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think you might have a little fandom going on when I see all your. Is that Steelers background?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm to those of you that don't know, I'm at home co-oping this semester because I kind of knew that it would be a shit show. So this is my childhood bedroom, and when I was about 8 or 9 or whenever it was that the Steelers won Super Bowl 43, I still had a pretty child-looking bedroom. My parents were like, "What do you want to redo your bedroom as?" And of course, I was like, "The Steelers." So it's been like that ever since. And I remember my junior or senior year of high school, I was kind of over it, and I was like, "I'm tired of having these mustard yellow walls. I'd like to get a little remodel," and they kind of shut it down. They're like, "Nah, that's not good."
The same thing happened to me when the Falcons won Super Bowl 51. I have giant Falcons fat heads all over my wall. Beautiful thing. I mean, Matt Ryan, Super Bowl MVP that year, as well as the league MVP. One of the probably greatest moments of my life. Nothing else happened. No one convinced me otherwise. So other than that, one last note, Tanner. We don't talk about defense here on Wasted Picks. Defense isn't a part of our play. We're all about Minshew magic and
right.
Julio Jones 80-yard touchdown. So other than that, great episode. Thanks for coming on, Tanner. It was nice having you.
Yep. Appreciate it.
And we will see you guys later.
Yep. See you next week. Cool deal.